Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 1-0 podcast. I'm Avery Hill.
I'm Will Horstman.
Obviously, last Saturday, Penn State lost to UCLA at Rose Bowl Stadium. That is going to be a lot of what we're talking about. We want to, look forward to what's ahead for Penn State. Obviously, with the loss, there's a lot of uprise from fans. People are expecting things to be ruckus. Will, I'll turn it to you first. What do you really think the reaction will be when Penn State takes the field on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit of a hostile environment for Penn State, even though obviously it's a home game. I think as soon as Penn State, if they get like a early 3 and out or something, there's going to be a lot of boos and a lot of that type of stuff. And I think when James Franklin gets introduced as coach, I think there's going to be a lot of boos there. So, because UCLA loss really kind of messed this entire season up for Penn State in terms of what they wanted to accomplish this season. And then of course, I think obviously it's going to be the stripe out game, but it's quite honestly, I even forgot that it was going to be the stripe out game because that UCLA loss really just it feels like it knocked the life out of this program, but we'll see. But I feel like it might be more of a home field advantage for Northwestern than Penn State.
Yeah, it's funny because you think about Northwestern and the last time that Penn State visited Northwestern, it was like a home game for Penn State.
Yep.
So now you're coming back. It's a chance of it really being a Northwestern home game, which is probably better than any home game they've had. They're still at Ryan Field, correct? They still call it Ryan Field?
Ryan Field, they're going through renovations.
Yeah, the renovations. Yeah. They're on the water,
yeah.
Whatever. First of all, I would love to be there. I'm just saying they could have just moved the game there at this point. But, I just think that it'll be interesting to see how long it lasts, because I think it's going to happen for sure. When James Franklin gets introduced, for sure. Yeah. Because we know how the fans are in general. Drew is going to get booed, even though the loss isn't on him, for sure. Yeah, the same way that, anytime Sean Clifford had an incomplete pass, it was, put in Drew, and now all of a sudden it's take out Drew. And the funny thing is they don't have anyone behind that they're ready to say, you don't really hear the grunt chants, anything. I'm just saying that's kind of way off. But, I do think the reception is going to be really bad at first. It'll be interesting to see how long that lasts. I think, obviously, if Penn State goes 3 and out, you're going to get it. I think Penn State scores that first touchdown, that should ease it. But we could very well, depending on how the fans are feeling and how the game is going, we could very well get into the fourth quarter of the game and fans are still booing. They might start throwing stuff on the field. I will say one thing I will expect is a heavy police presence. I think the critiques of this team right now has taken another level for obvious reasons. I don't want to excuse it because I think there is a line that can be crossed, and when you get to throwing stuff on the field and things like that, that's a line that's going to be crossed. But obviously they're very upset. Penn State loses back-to-back games, loses to a team they had absolutely no business losing to. Obviously Nico Iamaleava is a very talented player, but that alone should not be the team that's was expected to win a national championship. I think that the atmosphere will be very interesting to see. As you said, I had no clue it was a stripe out until maybe a day or so ago. I remembered it was homecoming, but outside of that,
it could be a very spotty stripe out in terms of just no one really following the assignments per section.
Yeah, it might be a dot out, little dots here and there. Yeah. I don't know what that has to do with Penn State, but it could be a dot out. But yeah, I think it's probably be crazy, but that kind of takes me to my next point. With that, fans really just feel like it's over. They feel like the season's over. Penn State's up to 2 losses. Obviously, as a college football playoff team, you want to get 2 losses or less, most likely, or in more cases than not, you want less than 2 losses. 3 kind of takes you out of it. I don't know if the expectation is to lose to Northwestern, but the expectation also wasn't to lose to UCLA. Do you think that this season is a bust at this point? Do you think it's over? And if not, how close do you think it is to being over in the sense of getting to what they hoped, which was a national championship?
Yeah, I think mathematically, it's probably not a bust just yet because technically they could win out with wins over top 10 teams in Ohio State and Indiana and finishing 10-2 and maybe have a shot at, if they beat Ohio State and Indiana, they could have a shot at playing for a Big Ten championship game. And if they're runners up in the conference plus 10-2, that probably gets them in the college football playoff. But as of right now, the realistic possibility of that happening is I wouldn't give Penn State the best chances of that, and because obviously, I mean, Ohio State, they haven't beaten them since 2016, and Indiana, it's like obviously a team that they've had a success with, but that could be a top 10 game, and James Franklin and top 10 games aren't necessarily always end up in the favor of Penn State. And
by not necessarily, we mean only 4 times has it ended up in the favor of Penn State, but
but yeah, it's probably because again, it's like it's not like entirely over, but it's like it feels over, and it's probably is over. And really at this point, because obviously they're 3-2, they need at least 3 more wins to get bowl eligible. Which this is very reactionary, but it's like it's hard to be confident that they will win 3 more games.
I think that's valid
because I mean they lose to probably the worst Big Ten team on their schedule in UCLA, and now it's like who else can you be like confident that Penn State will beat? Probably maybe like Rutgers, maybe Nebraska, maybe. I mean,
yeah, I don't think that's an easy game.
No,
even though it's only home game.
If Matt Rule, known Penn State alum Matt Rule, comes into Beaver Stadium and beats Penn State, that could revitalize the fire of Franklin. Or I mean, it still is alive, but yeah, that could be an interesting loss if that happens. But I mean, otherwise, I mean, they're probably, I mean, they should be at least bowl eligible. I mean, in terms of bowl games, it's probably going to be relatively meaningless in terms of just like who cares. It's like if you look back like 2021, they were playing Outback Bowl. It's like I really don't remember the last time an Arkansas fan mentioned that they beat Penn State in the Outback Bowl a couple of years ago. So it's like no one really cares about those.
Smith Bilber cares about the Outback Bowl.
Oh yeah, he does. Yeah, 3 sacks. Even though like one of those sacks was like just chasing. What's the quarterback? It was. I don't ever remember the quarterback even. It was another dual threat guy, ironically enough, but yeah, it's probably again it's like season's not technically done, but it's like it's done.
Yeah. And it was KJ Jefferson. I was thinking that, but I feel like isn't he still in college football?
Probably. He was like at least a 6-year player.
Yeah, still playing college. So he's still, he's at UC or played his last season at UCF. I don't know. Either way, that was obviously a little while ago. Penn State obviously is a different program by now, but yeah, I mean, I think everything you said, makes sense. Like, this is not realistically a year for Penn State to go to playoffs, given what they have ahead. But I think there's 2 directions you can take this. You can either, at least in my mind, I think there is a middle ground if you want to argue that. But I think it is either the best time for Penn State to have 2 losses or the absolute worst time. Because if you think about it, I'll take the worst time for one. That's obvious. This is about to be Penn State's worst stretch, which you can loop in a Northwestern game into that, given the fact that Penn State is not going to get their fans backing for the Northwestern game. But even so, after that, you go to Iowa, which, by the way, guys, is a night game, 7:30 on NBC. You go into Iowa, which kryptonite. We know how that is. Taquan Roberson knows what it is. Sean Clifford probably still gets nightmares from that. That there's a lot of nightmares that comes from going to Kinnick Stadium at night. I
mean, I think Sean Clifford is just nightmares from getting hurt because that is something I still kind of firmly believe Penn State wins that 2021 game if Sean Clifford doesn't get hurt.
For sure.
And then, I mean, obviously in 2019, Sean Clifford and also Noah Cain, generational performance in that game. I think he had like 20 carries for like 100-something yards. But yeah, as you were saying.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be like that's obviously a hard game. Then you go Ohio State at Ohio State. It doesn't matter where you're playing Ohio State. You're playing Ohio State. We already mentioned that. Then you got to play Indiana. I don't think Michigan State is a cakewalk. No. Michigan State has been competitive all year. I don't think they're a top team in the Big Ten, but having to travel to Michigan State, land grant trophy, the trophy that everyone cares about, by the way.
Yeah.
That's not easy. And then again, like Nebraska, like that's not going to be an easy game. Nebraska's always been competitive. They've struggled against top 25 teams, I will say that, but we don't know if Penn State will be top 20 to 25 at that point, which is crazy to say.
I mean, they're not even right now. So
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, we don't know where Penn State will be at that point. And also thinking about it, if I'm correct, that is the Saturday of Thanksgiving break. So depending where the team it is, it might be like a 60,000 people in the stands, like 75 maybe. Like, I think it'll get like 85, but I don't think 100. A lot of people are going to be going home. Student section is going to be empty, especially if the team isn't competitive and if the game isn't worth anything. So that's one side of it. The other side of it is now Penn State has their backs against the wall. It's back against the wall, to be correct. And it's like, okay, you're going into, again, Iowa, get through Iowa, hopefully for Penn State, and then you have to play Ohio State. But the difference is for this year's Ohio State versus other years, you can't lose this game. Penn State doesn't want to lose Ohio State every year, but they do.
Yeah.
Devontae Thomas, 0-6 against Ohio State. Like, they've had some struggles, obviously, but now they get into the point where it's like, we cannot lose this game whatsoever or the season is over. Obviously, it could be over a week or two before, depending on what they do against Northwestern and Iowa, but that's the other side of it. I mean, you want to see, if you're Penn State, you want to see the team rally. You want to see them come back at it. Talking to Drew and everyone in practice, they're like, this has been, the most intense week of practice that we've had, or maybe they didn't say the most intense, but they said they have upped the intensity in practice. Drew said he's, upped his intensity personally. I'm assuming that would be as a leader, things like that, stepping up, making sure guys know where they're wrong. Obviously, James Franklin, they said he's been different in practice this week in the sense of being more intense, being more on the guys, trying to get things going. So, I mean, it could go either way, but, I mean, I think that obviously would bring us to our next part of, like, what is that benchmark of, like, say they don't make the college football, what is the benchmark of a successful season? Because obviously at this point, I don't know if you want to say James Franklin's job looms, but I mean, obviously I think they missed the bowl game. Like, okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know what that benchmark is to where it's like, okay, if James Franklin isn't able to win X amount of games a season or isn't able to do this, he is gone. Obviously, you have the $56 million buyout, which only goes down to, I think, $23 million in 2029. For the full scope on that, you can check out at psucollegian.com. You click the football section. You can scroll down. It's just about assessing James Franklin, how realistic it is for James Franklin to be fired. Again, psucollegian.com, football, and click that. But, Will, I mean, what are your thoughts on that? What is kind of that benchmark for a good season for Penn State at this point?
I mean, at this point, they have to win out because I think for James Franklin, obviously, he always has kind of like the big game narrative, but it's like he always at least won the games he should win. And now with like losing to UCLA and frankly even Oregon, because Penn State was the favorite in that game. So, I mean, they need to win out. The task is pretty simply set. Like coming into the season with all this championship hype and to not even make the playoffs that's a failure. Anything below that is a failure in my eyes. But I mean, I don't know if I will say for this kind of mirrors this season, at least the start kind of mirrors 2016 in a sense that Penn State dropped like 2 early season games to Pitt and Michigan. Those were kind of just ugly losses. There's a little bit of Fire Franklin chatter going on. There's some linebacker depth issues going on. Is Brandon Bell and Jason Kabinda. They both kind of had some injuries or bumps and bruises, as Franklin would refer to start the season. And obviously this season, 2 losses that are kind of ugly in a way. I mean, Oregon's not as ugly as UCLA, but still 2 losses. And then you have obviously the linebacker depth stuff, but the only differences between 2016 and this year's Brandon Bell and Jason Kabinda, they both returned to injury. Obviously, Tony Rojas, he's out long term, so there's not really the sense that a starter will be returning soon. Yeah. But I mean, it's going to be tough for Penn State to kind of salvage this season, and it's still technically possible, but how realistic is it?
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. I think the only thing you can have some leeway with, okay, you can lose to Ohio State, But at some point as well, it is also like, are you like? Well, I guess we can kind of already answer the question of like, is Penn State ever going to beat Ohio State under James Franklin? It's seeming like a no. Obviously, things might change in different years, whatever. Maybe Keemon Spell is the savior in 2 years if it makes it that far. But I mean, it has not looked good, and that is added on to the fact that now all of a sudden James Franklin is losing games that he isn't supposed to. I think the interesting part about it, though, is I don't know from Penn State's perspective, even if you take the buyout out of picture, what is better than James Franklin right now? I think that leaves a short list of guys. You can argue trying to get Nick Saban back into coaching will be one for many reasons. I don't really think Kurt Signetti at this point, with the extension and everything, I don't know if that's a realistic option right now. And then Penn State, do you roll the dice? Do you go with, those younger guys? Do you go with, those offensive coordinators that you think are going to be really good? Do you go down to the group of 6 guys? I mean, look at Ricky Ronnie right now. Old Dominion is balling. Do you make the call to Ricky and say, hey, James won't be here, but you can be the head man? Like, I don't know what that looks like for Penn State, but obviously, first they need to get through this campaign. They need to get through this first game or this next game against Northwestern. Obviously, one of the biggest problems, and especially something that happened against UCLA, was the linebacker depth, as you alluded to. Tony Rojas is out. I know we didn't really touch on that last week, but because of that, Dom DeLuca has stepped up into that spot. And clearly, it hasn't worked so far. It's been one game, but he was honestly gashed. And the whole defense was against Nico Iamaleava. I mean, what are you seeing in this linebacker room right now? Do you think that they have the potential to step up? Do you think it was just, a 1 week thing? What are you expecting?
I mean, they need one of the freshmen that they keep talking about, Cam Smith and Alex Tash. They need one of them to step up, or even like maybe a more veteran guy like Keon Wiley, because I feel like at this stage of really having Amari Campbell and Dom DeLuca combining for, I believe it was 95% of the snaps given to linebackers, like, I don't think that's sustainable. I mean, I think because we talked about Dom DeLuca, it's like he didn't really play that well, but it's like I feel like he's just in an impossible situation.
100%.
Yeah, it's because I don't know if I don't feel like he's a good fit in like that Rojas role in this defense, because Rojas is obviously much more of an athletic guy than DeLuca, but yeah, they need Smith or Tash to step up. And it's kind of concerning that it's like, okay, Penn State, their defense, they kind of need a linebacker, but still no one else in that group is gaining like any sort of like considerable playing time behind Campbell and DeLuca. And it's like, if they can't get it right now, it's like I'm not necessarily confident anyone in towards like the bottom of the depth chart can.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like as you said, I don't know. I don't think there's a lot of confidence in that linebacker room. When we talked to Jim Knowles on bye week, he said they're still searching for depth. Then they lose Tony Rojas, which has been a reoccurring trend for Penn State, losing guys in the linebacker room. Tamir Robinson transfers out, having the various injuries that they've had through the year. Obviously, Keon Wiley was out last year. It's been rough to be a linebacker at Penn State, and it's been rough to coach linebackers at Penn State. But I think as of right now, especially kind of based on some of the things James Franklin was saying, obviously yesterday I asked him a little bit about what he's learned through this rough stretch. And the thing that stuck out to me the most is him saying, him needing to be honest with himself about the offseason acquisitions he had in terms of staff, and just understanding that adjustment period. I think when you are, 5 games going into 6 games into the season and your linebackers don't look like they fit in the defense, got to make a change, at least to the base defense. I think that it puts entirely too much pressure on Dom DeLuca to be a linebacker in a 4-2-5 full-time. Obviously, he played a lot beforehand, but obviously his role, he can be a little more situational. Obviously, he can step in the nickel package if he needs to, and they have 3 linebackers out there. There are so many different situations that they can put Dom DeLuca in that helps him shine. But it's hard for Dom DeLuca to really step into a spot that has so much pressure. Obviously, again, you saw it. I think he missed 3 tackles in the game. Obviously, like Amari Campbell can't do it all, and even he'll miss a few tackles every once in a while. Like, that's a lot of pressure. I know when we talked to Tony Ross before the season, he's like, the difference in this defense is the linebackers run the show. So the linebackers run that's showing you don't really have any outside of really Amari, that's a hard bargain. I mean, I think if you look at Dom DeLuca specifically, it's like at some point you got to kind of feel bad for the guy because he's getting a lot of heat, but I don't think that maybe he expected, but no one really expected him to be even close to this role anyway coming in as a walk-on. I mean, I think that he is just kind of a guy that I don't know if peak, maybe I guess you can say peak. He's kind of reached his ceiling, and I don't think that's a bad ceiling. I think he's a serviceable linebacker. I just don't think that, he was planned or he was going to pan out as this high-profile linebacker as, your Kobe Kings of the world, as your Brandon Bells of the world. Definitely not your Michael Parsons of the world. No. Like, there's, that was a hefty shoes for him to fill, and the more depth that the Penn State linebacker room is losing, the worse that kind of looks for him. And as far as the guys behind him, I mean, it's been interesting how every year, at least this year and last year, the years that I've been covering this team, James Franklin has talked about, and the coaches and linebackers coach, Dan Connors talked about it, Tom Allen last year, Jim knows. There's always those one or two guys that we think are next up, and all of a sudden they haven't hit the field. You can look at Alex Tash. I know he hasn't played a lot this season. The most who's played is Keon Wiley, who was at 49 snaps. Anthony Speckle was that guy last year who was supposed to be this guy, and I remember talking to Tamir Robinson at Fiesta Bowl Media Day, and he's like, yeah, I mean, he's really good. Like, he's going to be really good in his defense. He's a really good Mike. He's really mature. He understands this. He understands that. Obviously not quoting directly, but he has 47 snaps on the season. Obviously, for reference, we can go all the way up the list, and that would place Dom DeLuca at 173, Tony Ross at 176, Amari Campbell at 273, which is probably just about every snap. He's like 30 snaps over A.J. Harris. And that's the type of guy that you need. I think Amari Campbell helps, but I think it would be more beneficial to maybe run a 4-3 base. Anything that can get you three linebackers on the field, or maybe even bringing a safety down in the box. I think that would be important as well. I mean, I think it's hard to keep trying to make your defense adjust to a defense that they're clearly not adjusting to, especially as you get into, again, the rapid stretch of the season.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like at some point, if they want to keep doing a 4-2-5, it's like they're going to have to move like a safety or corner or something, or it's just someone down to a linebacker because, I mean, like I said, this is just not sustainable with like only really two guys that can be considered a starter, but it's like there's just no depth here, and it's kind of a shame because it's like Tony Rojas. I mean, he was on pace to have a pretty good season, so it's like it's kind of just a tough situation for this linebacker room because it's just unlucky because how it played out. Because there's just not really much you could have done here. Yeah,
I mean, I think that obviously, like Tony, like you've got to feel bad for the guy. He is literally like this. He was on pace to definitely have his best year. Yeah. He was all over the field, getting in the backfield, getting sacks, things like that. So, I mean, that hurts for him. And then I kind of just want to transition, though, into the offensive side of the ball. There's been two big topics that came out of this week's media. I think one that we can hit on really quick is Tyser Denmark and Kobe Howard. James Franklin was asked just how hard it is to kind of evaluate guys when they're not getting any reps. And he essentially said that you can't give guys reps if they're not ready, insinuating that they're not ready, despite all of the praise that we've heard about them. Another thing is obviously Katron Allen. Yeah. No one understands why he's not getting the ball. James Franklin said there were conversations about getting him the ball, but he hasn't gotten the ball. I mean, again, 7 yards to carry. He has, I think, 40 or so % of his runs have been breakaways, which is classified as 15 or more yards on a run. I mean, why is Penn State not making this switch and doing, what people are expecting to be the right move amid the struggles?
It feels like kind of weird. It's like they have one running back who's averaging 7 yards per carry, and another running back who's averaging 3.5 yards per carry. Who are you going to give the ball to? And it's what's even weirder is like Nick Singleton. He's getting, I think he got like 37 snaps compared to like 22. Yeah. Against UCLA for Katron, and it's just why, because I'd say Katron is, I'd say pretty definitively that Katron is Penn State's best player on offense this season.
100%.
Yeah, and it's why he's not just getting fed and just being on the field much more like consistently, and especially not on. Like, why is Katron Allen not on the field on 4th and 2 with the game on the line against UCLA? And
Power read to a wide receiver, by the way.
Yeah.
FWIW. I say for who is wondering. You can also say for what it's worth, but that happened. I mean,
it's just like you have a guy who's like almost picking up a first down per carry, and it's like he's not on. It's because like I'd say because there's so many like always complaints like, oh, why did they call this? Why do they call that? But I feel like if you make like play calls in like those key situations and just give the ball to your best player, I don't feel like there's really any room for like complaining or people saying, oh, that wasn't the best choice. Because just give the ball to your best player, and that's never a bad option, especially for Katron. It's like he probably picks up 2 yards there.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's been like, if you look at, like, I look back at the last sequence with the 4th and 2. Again, power read to a wide receiver. Doesn't make sense. Drew Aller's not going to get that. That's a long 3 yards. We can go on and on. Pena lost like 10 yards on the jet sweep early in the game. That didn't make sense. But I think even when you look back at earlier sequences, I think it was 2nd and 10, and they gave the ball to Nick Singleton. What did he do? Run right into the blockers. Nothing there. It's just not making sense. Again, they're saying they're having conversations, and then they're not doing it, and then all the players are like, what happens? You know, everyone in the media is asking, what happens when Katron Allen has the ball? Energy, juice, we get going, but he's not getting the ball. The only time that I saw them consciously give an effort to give him the ball, I think it was against Oregon, was a direct snap. Like, that doesn't make, just giving the ball, just hand it off.
Yeah.
Like, run the dang ball, give it to Katron Allen.
Yes.
Like, it's not making sense. He has been as explosive as ever, and it happens every single week. I think when you're in weeks 1 to 2, it's like, okay. But it's like every week it's gotten worse where they're not giving him the ball when needed, and it's hurting Penn State. I think it'll be interesting to see kind of how that shapes out and just where, if he actually gets the ball. Give Katron Allen the dang ball if you want Penn State to win the game. That's really all I've got to say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd even say, like, hypothetically, like, Penn State could be 5-0 if they really just fed Katron Allen the football. But it's obviously that's kind of a big what if, and obviously they're now 3-2. So it's at the end of they just need to start giving the ball to Katron more. Like, it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Well, that's all we have for today. For more coverage, visit us at psucollegian.com and follow us on socials. Subscribe to our newsletter as well to get content curated right to your inbox every Friday and every Monday. Other than that, Penn State will take on Northwestern on Saturday. Maybe we'll see you there. Maybe you'll be watching on TV. But either way, we will see you next time.